Hey, my friends, welcome back to another episode of Fuck Fine, the podcast where we fully believe in living life completely unapologetically and on our own terms. I am your host, Kari Hurd. For those of you who are new here, if you've been here a while, you have probably noticed that it's gotten a little bit quiet around here. And you are correct. I have not published an episode in a while. I about a year and a half ago, my youngest moved out, and I live in Minnesota. So, and that was we were nearing winter, and I thought, oh, after a life of like absolute chaos, I am going to hibernate for the winter, and I am going to come back recharged and ready to go in the spring. And so I did. I started to hibernate a little bit. March came around, started the podcast, got going, and my nervous system, my body, my mind, my spirit, all of it said, well, time out, bitch, slow your roll. We are not ready. And so I realized that I needed to find peace. For a very long time, I have really craved a life of peace. And this was just the time when I needed to do that. And that process did not look at all how I expected it to. And so that's why I want to talk a little bit about today. Some of the misconceptions that we have around what it means to have a life of peace and some of the misinformation we get about how to create that. And so I want to spend a little bit of time talking about this and then challenge you to create your life of peace. Um, I think often we are told that peace, we're kind of taught, I should say, peace is this, like everything's calm all the time, right? There's like stillness in our life and it's things like spa days and things that are sort of traditionally defined as self-care. And while these things are good, I have for a very long time talked a lot about how much I hate that term self-care because it oversimplifies it, right? Again, those things are so, so important. It is important for you to have a spa day and draw yourself a bubble bath and go, sit quietly on your patio and read a book and do all of those things. Have your girls' night out and your vacations and all of that. But those things, for as important as they are intended to recharge your battery. They and they will, and they do sort of because they're recharging your battery and you feel a little bit refreshed, you think, oh, good. But there is a difference between recharging your battery and creating a life of calm. I think often we see having a life of peace as, again, being sort of pretty and polished and calm. And yes, it does eventually feel calm. That's the whole point of it. You can't create it with just stillness. And I think I thought that's what I thought, right? When my daughter moved out and I had sort of that winter, I was gonna, you know, spend the winter hibernating or whatever. I thought, okay, I'm gonna be still for the winter and then I'm going to have a life of peace. And bitch, that is not how it works. I learned that the hard way. And that's kind of what this is all about. It's not it it's not just living in stillness. If you truly want a peaceful life, like I'm talking foundationally, you want a life that for the most part you don't need a vacation from. Now, I'm all for vacations, but you want to go enjoy your vacation, not use your vacation to escape the chaos of your life. You want a life that has sort of that underlying current of calm. That's what you really want, it requires a complete restructuring of certain aspects of your life. And which aspect is going to be different for all of us, because it depends where your chaos is, and it depends what areas you're sort of willing to restructure or able to restructure or whatever. Um, but that restructuring is raw and sometimes hard, because it means doing things like setting boundaries and walking away from people and experiences that maybe aren't aligned with creating that peace for yourself. It might be redefining yourself, compared to, who you are now is different than who you used to be. And so it's a lot of these things, and those things require difficult conversations with other people and with ourselves, right? If you really are going to need to sort of redefine yourself in some certain ways, that's difficult. And it's sad. Like there's grief involved in that when you finally like let go of that, right? When you let go of that particular identity of yourself. Or, there's sadness and grief if you have to maybe set boundaries with certain people in your life and not have them around as much or at all, or whatever that looks like for you. There are feelings of guilt. Like there were days, and there still are, there's days when I feel guilty for having peace in my life, because I know that so many people in the world right now have so much chaos, right? I watch my sister and her 3 children that I love to pieces. Their life is super chaotic, and I feel guilty for having peace. Now that's on me, but I'm just saying, like, there's all these emotions that come up with it, right? You feel like you're quitting, like you're giving up on certain things if you maybe choose to cut certain activities out of your life because it's no longer serving you, and it's just creating, maybe you're the parent who signs up to be on all of the committees because you want to be involved with your kids. And maybe you realize eventually, like, I can be involved with my kids without being on all the committees. But you feel a little bit, if you're like me, you're a little type A, little bit like to be involved in, like, you feel a little bit like a quitter, like, oh my God, I should want to do that. And so there's it's this raw, sort of unfiltered, difficult process to go through. But on the other side, holy moly, when you really strip all of that down and deconstruct all of it, and you get to rebuild it in a way that's just, it's magnificent when you can get there. Um, but it requires, like I said, it requires so much. For me, it was journaling and meditating and crying and ignoring text messages, which I know that seems really silly, but like that's really hard to do in today's world. Ignoring text messages and getting off of social media or certain platforms on social media. Like there was all these things that at the end of the day aren't a big deal, but they felt like it at the time. And so just sitting with all of that, right? I got myself a regular 9 to 5 office job, which I never thought I would again. And that required a little bit of a shift in my thinking about who I am and what I need, but it was also serving a different purpose, and like just sort of coming to grips with, in order to create what I wanted, I had to really rethink and re-envision what some of these things were going to look like for me, right? Um, so it can be hard. It can be really hard. Um, there's there's a messy middle, I would say, right? I'm going to talk in a minute about it. Like there's this moment where you have to sort of define what peace means to you, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. And then there's this really gnarly, messy middle, and then you come out on the other side. You go, okay, that's why I did all of that. I'm certainly not done. I I feel like I've done a lot of the hard, but I haven't arrived yet. But I'm here where I'm at right now, and I'm going to honor the hell out of that. Like I'm super proud of myself, and I love like I tell people all the time, like I'm living really this sort of quiet, boring little life. Like I go to work, I come home. It's super boring. But right now, I love every minute of it because I'm creating that foundation. And as I'm rebuilding things, I'm rebuilding it with purpose and intention. I'm adding things back in that align with who I am. They align with who I want to become. They align with goals I have for the future. And they are very purposeful and like I said, full of intention, not just, I'm going to do that because I think I'm supposed to, or I'm going to do that because people tell me I should. This is like, it, it was in all of the different difficult things I've done, this has been the most powerful. Um, and it, that messy middle and all of those feels, I want you to allow those. They don't all feel good, right? That grief doesn't feel good. But when you allow them and you really use them, even the ones that have sort of this negative interpretation, right? Like grief, that's not a great thing. People don't like to feel grief. But if you sit in that and you explore, like, why am I grieving this? Or just sit in it and allow yourself to grieve it. Like, don't rush through it. Just sit in it. You learn a lot. Like, that's where the deep learning happens. And the more you sit in that, the more clarity you have about what peace means for you and what that needs to look like moving forward. Okay? Um, I want to invite you to, like I said, start there. What does peace mean to you? What does it really look like to you? And you need to be brutally honest with yourself. And it's the first hard part of this, to really admit to yourself what it is you're craving. What does peace really actually mean to you? And your definition is going to be vastly different than mine because you're a different person than I am. And like I said, I haven't arrived yet. And dear God, I hope I never do, because like I said, I'm still learning what it means for me. It's a constant moving target. As you evolve, your definition of, right, who you are now and what peace looks like to you now, that's all going to evolve. As you evolve, that definition is going to change. Just like your definition of excitement and your definition of strength, like all of those things, as you evolve, all of those definitions should evolve, including peace. I know for me, for a long time, and this is where I had to sit for like the last year and a half, peace meant stillness. I needed stillness. And now peace means not tolerating certain things. Like there's an emotional piece that I'm looking for. And it means, like I said, not tolerating certain things and being sort of confident in there's a piece in being who I am authentically. And so and that's going to evolve because I can already see, like, okay, well, I did this, I did stillness, and now I'm evolving. And so peace, all right, like it's changing. And I love that. So I want you to, like I said, start just with that. Start by what is your definition? Start there. And then explore what needs to be dismantled to get there. What things, there's sort of an evaluation that you have to do about, okay, if this is my current definition, what things exist that I need to dismantle and get rid of and whatever. And then what things do I maybe need to add to create peace? And maybe what things currently exist that I just need to tweak, right? I was talking with someone the other day, and we were talking about like, oh, I'd have a lot of peace if I didn't have to go to work. Well, okay, that might not be realistic. You probably have to go to work. But what can you tweak about it? What boundary can you set around your job that allows you to have a job to pay your bills and do all the things, but also feel peace? And just a quick little example for me, I have a work phone, and I used to, when I first started this job a little over a year ago, I made sure that I always had access to that work phone. And now part of my peace is to say, no, like I will peek at it if I need to, when I need to. But I heard it. I heard the text message go off a little while ago, and I didn't check it, and I'm not gonna because it's after hours, and I'm not gonna respond anyway. So, what boundaries can you set, right? So again, definition: what needs to be dismantled completely, get rid of, what needs to get added, and what needs to get tweaked, and then just start the process and be in the process. And like I said, it it's messy. It was way messier than I expected. I fully expected to hibernate for 6 months and come out the other side peaceful. That's why I was sorely mistaken. So that is my challenge for you. My wish for you is that whatever your definition of peace is, you find it because you deserve it. Tell yourself that on repeat in the mirror. You deserve peace. You, right? You do. You do. I'm coming back, but not on anybody else's schedule. I'm coming back on my schedule because that's one of the ways I maintain my peace. I don't know what that looks like. I know the idea I have in my head, but if I approach, if I leave this up to my creativity, it becomes better than if I just show up just to keep up. I have things to say. I'm finding those things again. They were gone for a little bit. And so I'm excited, but it's going to be on my terms. Remember, my friends, you get to be bold as you want. You get to live as authentically as you are able. And you do not need to settle for fine. You get to have whatever your definition of extraordinary is. I'm glad to be back. I will see you in the next episode.